out of D.C. Mike, yes, indeed, rejoins us for a couple moments. How you been, Mike?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Everything is well. Glad we finally tracked you down, and a lot of stuff to catch up with you, a lot of stuff to get into, and it's always good to touch base with you. Now, I know you have a fight coming up, no opponent yet, but just talk a little bit about your training camp and how that's been going along for you.
Training camp started Monday. Everything's going well. I've actually been back in the gym for probably about 2 months. I'm ready. I'm ready for a step up in opponent. I'm ready for a step up in rounds. Just continue to prepare myself.
You're ready to step up in general, yes?
Yep.
It's funny because if we'll get into some of the amateur stuff, because a couple guys are already tweeting in some of the questions they wanted me to kind of fire off of you. You look at your amateur record, extensive background. Forget about being 19-0. You possess the knockout power. We know that as a super lightweight southpaw. I typically look at guys that have 60, 70-plus amateur records, and I think right there and then they're pro-ready. You look at yourself. The accolades were there. Rankings were there, national championships, the PAL, the Golden Gloves, 90-13 amateur record. Did you have a feeling after 50 or 60 amateur fights that you felt, okay, my style is conducive to the pros, I'm ready?
Actually, I got told that a lot. Being a young kid, I just fought the way that I was trained to fight, and my dad did an excellent job at monitoring the way that he trained us, because on every level we trained different. When I was an amateur, when I was a junior, 10 years old, from 10 to 13 years old, I fought differently from when I was 14 to 16 years old. And then once I turned open, I also started to, slow down. And everybody said Mike always comes on later in rounds. And I think that's kind of when I got the title, he fights like a pro, or he's pro-ready.
The one thing I noticed, too, is, and sometimes people forget, it's not like in this division you need to be 5'8", 5'9". You can be a compact fighter and typically be right around 5'6", 5'9", right? I mean, you're 5'6". You look at maybe Jerry Belmontes is pretty tall at 5'9", but you're right where you need to be, which means you can probably sit on your punches a little more, fight in the pocket. I remember early in your career, the one thing that you never really did was waste your shots. You never really waste your punches. You never really tired yourself out. Was that something that you learned from the amateur ranks, where sometimes you got to be a volume puncher because of the way the scoring is in the amateur ranks, or did you learn through either your father or through training, hey, I have to use my punches judiciously. I can't waste them. If the opportunity is there, I'll take some of my shots. If not, I'll kind of pace myself.
Well, it actually did start with the amateur system when I believe I was 15 or 16. And I won the Junior Olympics, and that's when I was first introduced to the scoring system, and the point scoring, I should say. And with the point scoring, it was all effective punches. It was the clear telling blows, and that kind of translated to where I am now. I did have to make that transition, however, coming from being a junior, and basically whoever threw the most punches was winning the fight.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent point. While I have you on, let me get your thoughts right now before we start talking about your pro career. What do you make right now of the scoring in the Olympics and how skewed it is? I mean, we saw Gary Russell get robbed. We saw Colin get robbed. A lot of people thought that if the Russian kid was going to fight Shakur Stevenson out of Newark tomorrow, then maybe there's a chance that he was going to get robbed. I mean, look, we've seen this. Guys have gotten robbed in the Olympics, but it just seems as though it's really skewed, and it's just they're not. It's supposed to be a level playing field, and it's not.
Exactly, and it kind of hurts the pro boxing. I'll say it hurts the pro boxing as well as the amateur boxing. I went the direction I went as far as pro boxing, because you remember when the Olympics used to be a big thing, especially in the United States. Now it's hard to even find Olympics live on television. You have to actually go download the app and watch it there. So for your regular Olympic watchers, they don't get to see the Olympic Games because it doesn't come on live, and it doesn't come on live because of the fact that the Americans not winning. And I don't think I don't think Americans not winning because of the Olympic scoring, even though that's the big reason. I think it had to do with the way that the coaching was set up and USA Boxing was set up. But I think USA Boxing did an excellent job this Olympics coming around, and I think the USA team that we had it should have had more medals. I think he was good, Antoine Russell. So I thought he definitely won his fight, and
I agree.
At least had a bronze medal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that has been going on for a long time. Floyd Mayweather got robbed. Roy Jones got robbed.
Sure.
And those are just notable guys that I can think off the top of my head. It sucks. It sucks. It discourages guys. It dilutes the amateur system as well, because you get a lot of guys that want to turn pro. Like Erickson Lubin.
Well, it does, and I think what happens is maybe there's a frustration. Typically when you talk to an amateur who's had an extensive career and they've got screwed or robbed, right after that bout, someone turns around and then says, you know what, it's time to turn pro.
Exactly. And I understand that, because to be at that level, you're at the top of the top, and for someone to basically rob you, take it away from you, and you're doing everything that you can do. You did everything that you needed to do, and you get robbed. That's kind of messed up.
No, listen, we agree on that one. Again, Mike rejoined us for a couple moments. Rising prospect from Top Rank Boxing, 23 years of age, knockout power, 19-0, 11 knockouts, slated for an October 14th date. No opponent yet. That'll be at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Kind of good that Pennsylvania / New Jersey gets an opportunity to see you, because a lot of your fights, and I remember calling a couple of them early on in your career, Rosecroft Raceway in Fort Washington, and then all of a sudden, a little more of the spotlight, Prudential Center, Madison Square Garden, but I believe this will be, your second fight in Philadelphia. That's a nice little showcase for the Philly fans to have an opportunity to watch a fight.
Absolutely. Everything on the East Coast, my fans can come out. I love building on the East Coast, because it's kind of like my home. Well, not kind of. It is my home. Being on the East Coast is where I grew up at. Is where I call home. And to build a great fan base on the East Coast is a wonderful thing.
Two more quickies, and I know we're a little pressed. I appreciate the time. When I look at you, you are what I like to call a fan-friendly fighter. You're not going to be afraid to throw your hands. You got fast hands. You got some power. You're extremely focused. And I'm wondering, how much of that comes from having and being managed and really looked after by your father, Buck, and is that also from having that extensive amateur career where, you know to go to the body, to go back to the jab after throwing a combination? It's more or less, a question of, you seem very technically and tactically sound, and I'm just wondering, does it come from both the extensive amateur career and also having your father in your corner?
It does come from both. Like I said, everything I've learned through boxing has been because of my father. He's done a great job at being a student of the game, learning from guys that have been there. Like Boy Hunter is a great role model to my dad. We grew up under Barry. Even though we had our own gym, anytime we had a question of even now, my dad has never been how can I say it, scared in a way to ask for advice. Some trainers, some managers are scared to let their fighter get close to other trainers or managers in fear of that they'll steal them. But my dad, he's done a great job at preparing me to get where I'm at right now. And then the matchmaking as well.
Yeah.
The matchmaking early on in my career, even now, every fight I learn, that's what I want to continue to do.
How about 140? How about when you look right now at the division with Garcia and Crawford, yourself and Broner, Emmanuel Taylor? A lot of people thought he went away, but he really didn't go anywhere. And he had a nice win last 2 weeks ago in Bristol, Pennsylvania. Joel Diaz Jr., Peterson, Hooker. Kind of, I don't want to say handicap the division, but I think a lot of times rankings are skewed, to be quite honest with you. Now, yes, you still, you go by those ring rankings and whatnot because they are the most respected of them all. But kind of handicap yourself. Where do you put yourself in this division?
I put myself right up there, with the top contenders in the division. And I say that respectfully because I'm in there with the champions, I'm in there with Adrian Broner. I'm in there with Lamont Peterson. I test my skill set against them, and when it's a sparring session, it's a good sparring session, and I can definitely say if it were a fight, well, in the sparring session, you don't know who's the world champion and who's the prospect / contender, so I think I'm right there along with all the top guys. And I think in the coming years, especially with Terrence Crawford having 2 belts now and kind of showing up as the top guy at 140, there's going to be some great fights at 140.
And last one for you. We already know about that date in October. No opponent to be determined. Would you like to maybe try to squeeze in one more fight before the calendar year closes? And you mentioned, with 140 and making some noise and being undefeated and going up the ranks. Where do you see yourself within the year?
I would love to get one more fight in before the year comes up. Think about it. If I close the year off 21-0, a good strong 21-0. With my resume that I possess, and as far as being a pro, maybe next year around this time we won't be talking about me being a contender or prospect. Maybe we'll be talking about me being this world champion.
We'll look forward to that conversation. Look, you've been I look at it's funny because we know about all the DMV fighters and with the Rivers and the Hernandez and yourself with that pedigree, that deep amateur record, and out of all those guys, I mean, quite honestly, they're all very good boxers, but there are sometimes the boxers that kind of fly under the radar and just step in there and do what they need to do, and that's kind of how I look at you. So I'm telling you right now, I'm sure within a year we're going to be having the same conversation, and then you'll probably tell me who you're fighting because I'm trying to find out who you're fighting now in October, and we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Once we get on that level, it'll pretty much be set in stone who I'm fighting. Right now, we go through the motions and they can switch up an opponent at the last minute, but a year from now, we're looking to have every solid guy in the 140 division.
All right, Mike, it's always good to catch up, pal. Appreciate a couple moments. Hopefully we'll talk before that 24th fight in October. If not, we'll see you out there. I appreciate a couple moments.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate you having me.
All right, you got it. Mike, yes, indeed. Reed, join us for a couple moments.